In addition to the bombs that were sent yesterday, there was a Georgia governor. The bombs that were sent today, there were some bombs thrown on the Georgia debate stage last night, where Stacey Abrams, who would become the first black governor of Georgia if she defeats Secretary of State Brian Kemp, squared off against Brian Kemp. And before I get to the actual debate, Rolling Stone has uncovered audio basically showing Brian Kemp at a behind closed doors event saying he's concerned about Georgians exercising their right to vote. You can't make this up. So this is the Secretary of State who's already purged over 50,000 people, mostly black, while running for governor. So he's basically purging people that could vote for his opponent. Yeah, this is democracy, right? Talking about he's worried about Georgians exercising their right to vote. Let's hear it.
The literally tens of millions of dollars that they are putting behind to get out the vote efforts for their base, a lot of that with absentee ballot requests. They have just an unprecedented number of that, which is something that continues to concern us, especially if everybody uses and exercises their right to vote, which they absolutely can, and mails those ballots in. We got to have heavy turnout to offset that.
You literally have him behind closed doors. This is the Secretary of State that literally has purged over 50,000 Georgians, mostly black, saying he's worried about Georgians exercising their right to vote. Are there any laws in America anymore for elected officials? He's purged tens of thousands of black people off the rolls who could potentially vote for the first black black governor in Georgia. And now he's caught behind closed doors saying, oh, well, we're worried about voters exercising their right to vote during the election. This comes after this exchange during the debate last night. Here we go.
I grew up in a family that fought for the right to vote before they were old enough to do so. My father was arrested helping people register, and so I take the right to vote very seriously. I only believe that those who have the legal eligibility to vote should cast a ballot. But I also understand that under Secretary Kemp, more people have lost the right to vote in the state of Georgia. They've been purged, they've been suppressed, and they've been scared. This is a man who had someone arrested for helping her blind father cast a ballot. He raided the offices of organizations to stop them from registering voters. That type of voter suppression feeds the narrative, because voter suppression isn't only about blocking the vote. It's also about creating an atmosphere of fear, making people worry that their votes won't count. As the next governor of Georgia, I will work with the Secretary of State to ensure that there is no question that the right to vote in Georgia is not a privilege. It is indeed a right that belongs to those who are Georgia citizens, and I will work hard to make it so.
Mr. Kemp, would you like to respond?
Yeah, well, that's just factually not true. 75% of the people, after you take off people that were pending, like my 17-and-a-half-year-old daughter was pending on the pending list. When she turned 18, she came off. When you take off people that had registered that had a potential double name, or when you count people like Jesus from Heaven Street that are on these lists, they are on the pending list. No one's keeping them from voting. 75% of the people are being held because of something that was pre-cleared through the Obama Justice Department because their Social Security number didn't match. If they'd have used the online system that Ms. Abrams voted against, they would not be having this issue. She is blaming me for a problem that her group created.
Oh, my God. And of course, the debate moderator didn't challenge the lies because moderators are just meant to be stooges. Did you notice that Jake Tapper of CNN, I know we can't criticize CNN today, but I'm going to do it anyway, just let Ron DeSantis just lie through his teeth during that debate with Andrew Gillum the other day. And Jake Tapper, frankly, didn't challenge Andrew Gillum about his moonwalking away from Medicare for all. So basically, in corporate media, debate moderators are kind of like mannequins. They just kind of sit there, look pretty, and let the candidates lie. That's basically what a debate moderator is. But first of all, Brian Kemp, who's the Secretary of State in Georgia, and it doesn't get more corrupt than this. You're the Secretary of State. you are running for governor and you're deciding who gets purged and who does not, he should basically have to recuse himself for anything having to do with this election because he is a candidate. So you're telling me that the tens of thousands of people that have been purged in Georgia, tens of thousands of black people, the majority of those have double names? Black people have more double names than white people? All these black people are pending because their social security numbers didn't match up? All these black people are pending because they wrote down Jesus from Heaven Street? If you buy anything that this criminal, he's a criminal, and I'm about to get to another story that shows you he's a criminal. You buy anything this criminal's saying, I got a tooth to sell you. See, root canal, tooth to sell you. I mean, other than Governor Jeb Bush basically helping to elect George Bush as president of the United States in 2000, because Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida. Kathleen Harris was the Secretary of State of Florida and was a co-chair on W's presidential campaign. Other than that, which Jeb Bush basically pushed heaven and earth to stop the recount, to stop votes from being counted, and of course the Supreme Court electing George Bush. I can't think of a more corrupt situation. You have the Secretary of State of Georgia is running to be the governor. He's purging black people off the rolls against the first, what would be the first black governor of Georgia, a female too. I mean, are there no laws in the United States of America? Are there any conflict of interest laws? Shouldn't he have to recuse himself from anything having to do with purging? Shouldn't the voters who have been purged be put back on the rolls, considering they were purged while he was in consideration before he ran for governor too? But in the 2-year period of where these purges started happening under him, and then he ran for governor, they should be put on the rolls immediately because he has an incentive to purge voters so the will of the people is not met. Period. It's beyond corruption. This is beyond corruption, folks. Like, it makes what happened in 2000 in Florida, where Governor Jeb Bush at the time helped elect his brother, makes it look like child's play compared to this. And this comes as this story now has come out. Well, Mr. Kemp, who's purging black voters left and right, he owes more than $800,000 in insider loans to bank he helped start. Sometimes it feels who owes what has become the central theme of the governor's race. Political attack ads and counterattack ads about debt have flooded the airways, but our Fox 5 I-team has found some of Brian Kemp's company's debt is with the bank he helped start and now sits on the board of directors. And Kemp's staff didn't answer any detailed questions we asked about the loans. Fox 5 has already reported of Stacey Abrams' $50,000 debt to the IRS, and Brian Kemp is in a bitter lawsuit in which a company claims he promised to guarantee $500,000 in debt. But we decided to examine some $2 million worth of insider loans Kemp's companies borrowed from a bank he helped start. It was a financial freefall that America hadn't seen since the 1930s. In 2008, the stock market collapsed. People lost their homes. Massive banks went under. The Great Recession was underway. As the financial pain galvanized the country, companies linked to Georgia businessman Brian Kemp's companies, according to land records and candidate filings, began taking car, property, and real estate development loans totaling more than $2 million from a community bank in Athens, Georgia, First Madison Bank and Trust. It was a bank he knew well. Kemp was a founding board member and a stockholder. Kemp is a real estate investor and property manager. According to his financial disclosures, companies linked to Kemp borrowed millions from more than a half dozen banks. But we were curious about the loans with his own bank. These so-called insider loans, while perfectly legal, are heavily regulated. The banks argue this is an opportunity for the bank to have a strong loan on the books. Gandori says bank loans to insiders like Kemp are governed by Federal Reserve laws. He says some bankers like making these loans to wealthy board members and shareholders since they're good credit risk and wouldn't want to harm the bank, but others worry about insider loans for one main reason. Quote, there are potential conflicts of interest. The insiders could treat these loans as a private piggy bank. Well, if he owes $800,000 in insider loans to the bank he helped start, I would certainly call that Brian Kemp's personal piggy bank. So, I got to tell you, I call it like I see it. I take on the Democrats. I take on the Republicans. I don't really give a damn. I think the Democrats, I'm a little harder on the Democrats, frankly, because they're the party that claims to be for the working people. The Republicans don't pretend to be for working people. I mean, Donald Trump convinced working people he was for them. But overall, the Republican Party doesn't pretend. I mean, they pass tax cuts for the rich, and they wear it like a badge of honor. But honestly, folks, I am somebody who's seen a lot of corruption. I've been to 35 states and cities over the last 3 years. I have interviewed thousands of people. I have exposed corruption. I have not seen this level of corruption. I've not seen this level of corruption. A lot of the issues I cover predominantly affect black people. And I think when you have a Secretary of State like Brian Kemp, who is purging tens of thousands of citizens, black citizens, from voting, issuing a potentially historic vote for the first black governor of Georgia, a woman, mind you, which is equally as great. It is criminal behavior. He should have zero say on who gets purged and who is eligible. And his nonsense answer in that debate about tens of thousands of people have double names, tens of thousands of people are being purged because their social security numbers don't match up, tens of thousands of people are getting purged because they wrote Jesus from Heaven Street. Get the fuck out of here. And by the way, in the debate, he said if it goes to a recount, and right now it's 48 to 48 percentage point to 48 percentage point. If it goes to a recount, he will not recuse himself from his role as Secretary of State. Are you crazy? So yeah, not only are we allowing the Secretary of State of Georgia, who's running for governor, are we allowing him to basically purge his opponent's voters, then we're going to allow him dictate the recount? And you say we live in a democracy? And all I hear from CNN and MSNBC, the New York Times is, oh my God, Russia attacking our democracy, holy democracy. This is an attack on our democracy, which we don't actually have. This is an attack on our brains and common sense. This is an attack on black people all over this country. And this is an attack on what's supposed to be the most sacred thing about being an American, and that's voting.